Clap if you're anxious about placements. So, even I was very anxious about placements. So I'll set the scene for you guys. It was about 10 years ago. It was a nice, crisp winter morning, and my undergrad placements were in full swing. Premier Recruiter was on campus, and we were all very excited. So we were all standing around figuring out what to do, and then a much too serious HR executive came along, and she was like, okay, get into groups. So we got into our groups, and she would come to each one of us and ask us, why do you want to join our company? And I prepared my spiel, and I had my whole aspirations and everything. I wanted to work for a few years before pursuing CAT. And so when the HR executive came to me, I delivered the spiel. And I think I delivered it fairly well because I cleared the first round. Then I was standing around with my friends, as we all do, speculating about the rest of the process, when she pulled me aside. And suddenly her tone got a lot more polite. She was like, so Preetham, are you visually impaired? I said, yes. She's like, how do you use computers? So I told her about the various accessibility, text-to-speech softwares, things like that I use. So she's like, okay, wait just 1 minute. And she came back and she was like, you see, we can't really install external softwares on our systems. So essentially what I'm telling you is you can't work with us. And then she said something very interesting. She's like, you know, your story is such an inspiration. I honestly feel this job is beneath you. I did not understand what was going on. On one side, she was saying I was an inspiration, and on the other side, she was telling me that I couldn't work with her. So these kinds of things actually happened to me a few more times, and they happened to quite a few other people I know. The fact is, when it comes to disability, everything is an inspiration. Another great example of this comes from Bollywood. So we've seen so many movies where the protagonist has a disability, the protagonist overcomes all the odds and achieves their dream. Right? Movies like Tanvi the Great, Shrikant. The audience watches these movies and gets inspired. Bollywood, of course, makes a lot of money. But nothing really changes in the real world. So I'm here to do things a little differently. I'm here to flip the script. Hi, my name is Preetham Sunkavalli, and I'm not here to inspire you. In fact, I'm here to tell you why you should not be inspired by someone just because they have a disability. And it's a very hard thing to do, because as humans, we love stories of inspiration, right? We come together in rooms like this, we listen to speakers because we want to get inspired. And there's no better plot point for inspiration than a person with a disability. In fact, we've come up with this whole range of terms to set them aside, to put them on a pedestal. Terms like specially abled, differently abled, dare I say, Divyang. So, am I special? Am I different? Am I godly? I don't know about other people, but I certainly don't think so. These terms are what we call ableist terms. Now, just like racism or casteism, ableism states that people, able-bodied people, are superior because they have no deficiency. And to really understand how this thought process works, we should understand the two ways that people think about disability. So the first way is that people think of disability as a medical problem, with a solution that only medical science can offer. And this is most evident when people come to me and ask me, hey, so what's the problem? Or they'll be like, what are the treatment prospects? Or they'll be like, have you seen a doctor? I mean, I'm 30 years old, dude. Obviously, I've seen a doctor. If I go to such people with a book and I say I want to read this book, they'll refer me to the closest ophthalmologist to go get my eyes checked. Right? So, the second way that people think about disability is through a lens of charity. They believe that people with disabilities require the world's sympathy. If I went to them with a book, they'd say, oh, you poor thing, you can't read a book, let us read it out to you. Now, I see this mindset most commonly among events funded by companies' CSR funds or among religious institutions. In fact, in one such religious institution, I was once referred to as one of God's special children. And trust me, if I was one of God's special children, I will not be standing here right now. I'd be driving my Lamborghini down the California coast. So the thing is, these people actually very clearly understand the kind of barriers we face. It's just that they can't fathom how anyone can overcome these barriers and live a normal life. When we do end up doing it, we are an inspiration. I've had a lot of such people come to me and be like, we could never do the kind of things you're doing if we were in your place. So on one side, they consider me an inspiration, and on the other side, they thank goodness that they're not like me. So that's how it is, right? People think we either deserve medical treatment, we deserve charity, or we deserve awards and movies made upon us. What we don't deserve is a regular life. Now, I've been in Mumbai for about 3 to 4 years now. And one thing that fascinates me about this city, one thing I absolutely love about this city, are the Mumbai locals. How many of you commute by locals? So the thing is, I used to think it's an environment rich with barriers. I never thought I could use it on my own. But it turns out there are hundreds of persons with disabilities who use Mumbai locals every day. And with some very insistent friends and some level of orientation, even I'm able to use the Mumbai locals on my own. Of course, I should give a disclaimer, I think standing here. Western line and off-peak hours only. So there are tactile paving on the platforms, which I can follow with my cane. There are beepers on the platforms which indicate where the door of the handicapped coaches will stop. And of course, the handicapped coaches themselves. But the most impressive thing for me about the Mumbai locals are the people. I would have taken help of hundreds of strangers when I was traveling in the Mumbai locals. And I don't think anyone ever asked me what my problem was, or anyone ever called me an inspiration. So what's different here? To understand that, we need to understand the definition of a disability. So what is a disability? Essentially, a disability is when a person's impairment interacts with barriers put up by society. Now, everything we've talked about so far, all the theories, have been about the impairment. But the thing is, we should be thinking about dismantling the barriers. Now, if I wanted to read a book, there's software that lets me read ebooks. I can listen to audiobooks, and in fact, I'm even learning Braille these days. How many of you here in the audience use glasses or contact lenses? Please clap. I don't know if you would know this, but 500 years ago, even y'all would have been considered disabled. But the thing is, technology has dismantled that barrier. In fact, the terminologies that we use right now, we say persons with disability, right? Because we don't want disability to define our identity. I don't want to be known as that visually impaired person who overcame all the odds and became a corporate executive. I want to be known as a corporate executive who happens to have a disability, right? So when you meet people with disabilities, instead of being inspired by them, understand the kind of barriers that they face and work to dismantle those barriers. I want to leave you with one thought, one challenge. Next time you come across someone with a disability, either in college, at work, in a public place, or even in your own home, take a step back, set the stereotypes aside, and just like the humble Mumbai commuter, talk to them like regular people. Because ultimately that's what we are, regular people, except that we have a disability. Thank you.